Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 2020 CFA Society Nigeria Virtual Career Fair. I can see all of us jumping in right now. Some of us are joining us from YouTube. And our theme for this year is managing your career in uncertain times. So I'm very glad to say that these 2 days, you're going to enjoy these sessions for today, 3 p.m. to 5:20, and on the 13th, that's tomorrow as well. So you're welcome. Please settle down. It's going to be virtual, of course, not the physical conference. So let's pretend we're now having our seats and going to now enjoy the various sessions with our wonderful panel and wonderful guests. Let me first start by saying a big welcome to our national president, CFA Society Nigeria president, Banji Fentola. He's going to give us the welcoming address. So, Banji, over to you.
All right, thank you, David, and a very good afternoon to everyone. And I just want to say a big thank you for joining this career fair. As we all know, we started this last year, so this is our second year of running the career fair in Nigeria. It's unfortunate that we couldn't do this in person. It would have been so nice to do this in person, but we all know the reality of the world and where we find ourselves. And obviously that also feeds into the theme of the career fair, which is managing your career in uncertain times. As CFA Society Nigeria, we are excited to, at least, despite all the challenges, provide a platform for people to learn, for people to interact, to network, and for people to continue to develop themselves. For people who don't know us very well, we are one of the member societies of CFA Institute. And as many of you would know, the CFA Institute is a big global body, and our real objective and mission is to lead the investment profession globally. I think if you drill down to our strategic objective in Nigeria as a society, two things I will speak to. One is we try to ensure that everything we do delivers member value. And then secondly, one of our strategic objectives, obviously, again, is to develop future professionals. And the reason why I touch on these two out of the other things that we do is because the career fair touches on the two. For people who are here today as our members, we hope that this is one way that we're delivering value for your membership. And I think it's an important way for us to help the careers of our members. For people who are not yet our members, so I'm talking about people who are probably not in the investment industry, or people who are probably still in school and you have the aspiration to be in the investment industry in future. This, for us, is a way to develop future professionals. So I think as we go through today and tomorrow, the lineup of speakers is very impressive. The topics, I went through the topics, very impressive topics. I think it's going to be a good time for learning. It's going to be a good time for us to interact. And I would really like to encourage all the attendees to make the best use of the opportunity that we have provided. I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be an exciting time. And all of us at the end of tomorrow will be excited that we were part of this program. Before I move on, I would just like to say a few thank yous. First, to the Employer Relations Committee, led by Marco. I'd like to say thank you so much for all the hard work in putting this together. I would like to say thank you to all the volunteers that worked at the background to ensure that this is successful. Society Office, I would like to say thank you to you as well. I would really like to say thank you to all our speakers. We do not take your time for granted. There's a lot of events and programs happening now. So for you to agree to speak to us, we really appreciate it. And last but not the least, I would like to say thank you to all the attendees for being a part of this program. Like I said, I think it's going to be an exciting time. And I also look forward to learning and interacting with you over the course of today and tomorrow. So thank you so much. And with that, I'll pass it back to David Brown. Thank you so much. So David, back to you, please.
All right, I just got unmuted now. So thank you very much. Thank you, Banji. Thanks a lot. And thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to jump straight into the program right now. And I would like to say all the various tools that you have available to you. So I know quite a lot of us are here. For those that are on the platform, I would like you to look through the platform. I'm just going to give you some quick ground rules. We have the main session. The main session is where we're going to have all the panel discussions and all the various guest speakers that are going to come to kind of advise you on how you can enhance your career prospects. But we also have sessions, as in breakout rooms, which are kind of filled with all our sponsors, all the various companies that you could go and talk to right away. So I'd like you to just spend 1 minute, just 1 minute, click on breakout room, click on breakout room and see all the various companies we have that are going to, someone will be there to have a chat with you. Still don't miss the main session, but you can jump into the breakout rooms at any time, right? We have ARM, we have Coronation Merchant Bank, we have Ernst & Young Global Limited, we have FSDH Asset Management Limited, Greenwich Merchant Bank, you have Leadway Assurance, Meristem Securities, Sterling Bank, and United Capital PLC. So you have people already in those breakout rooms and you can join them at any time.
That's well good.
Great. So if we can mute our mics, please. If you can mute our mics. So ground rules, make sure your mic is muted. You can see some are not muted. Just make sure your mic is muted at all times. I just check that it's muted and we will jump into the sessions shortly. So Gloria, if you can continue with the slides and share the slides. So when you're comfortable, you know how to jump into the various company rooms, which are your breakout rooms in Zoom. I'd like all of us to come back and we'll continue the session. Okay, can we all hear me? Can we do a slideshow, please, Gloria? So we can have the screen. Okay, I'll just quickly introduce the first session. The first session is on insights into the future of work in finance and investment industry. And to talk to us about this session, we have Funke Amobi. She's the country head human capital, Stanbic IBTC. We have Razak Ahmed, his CFA, CEO of Cowrywise. And to moderate this session is Yemi Osinubi, CFA. I would like to now introduce Yemi Osinubi, and if you can go ahead, sir, Yemi, if you're here, to moderate this session.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for the introduction and for the opportunity to be on this panel. Thank you so much. So, talking about the future of work, my two excellent panelists, I would like you to share your first thoughts with us, given that we've just gone through an unprecedented year, and everybody says that, but everybody kind of agrees also. In the last in the last 6 to 9 months, we have seen, people say, a compression of the embrace of technology and a change in how work is done from what is estimated to be a 3 to 4 year adoption period compressed into the 6 to 9 month period. And so for Funke, who represents a fairly well-established organization like Stanbic, and for Razak, who represents a new economy business in Carry-wise, maybe the first thing I would like for you guys to sort of share with us is how your organization, what was your organization's biggest challenges this year, right? Different ways to look at businesses, I'm sure. If the first you could do for us would be just tell us how you have navigated 2020 with specific comments on how it has shaped your work, your workforce, your time. And that would be the first thing I would like to have you guys go around. And I think, Funke, if you could go first, please. Is Funke here?
Yeah, she needs to be unmuted.
Unmuted, okay.
I think that needs to be done by the host.
Please, host, we really want to hear Funke speak. If you could unmute her, we'll be excited. We're so happy.
Host, please unmute.
Yes.
Right, fantastic. Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and indeed a very big thank you to the management and coordinators of the CFA Society Nigeria, the president especially. I heard him give the opening remarks. And I'm starting by giving you a commendation for paying attention to one of the most important factors, in career management at this time, which is ensuring your adaptability to manage your career in uncertain times. So a very big well done. So how did we navigate this uncertain, this degree of turbulence that we've all witnessed with COVID-19? I'd like to say for a start that Stanbic IBTC commenced a digital transformation agenda a few years ago. And as I always say, the future of work, appeared futuristic to many organizations until COVID-19 erupted, disrupted our status quo. But the organizations that had paid attention to this future of work, in my view, were less impacted, less jolted by the shock and the force than organizations that, in my view, thought that the future of work was something that was so far-fetched. So we had commenced a digital agenda, a digital transformation agenda in all its ramifications a few years ago, about 4 years ago, and it had begun to yield its dividends. Sometime in 2018, we were named the Digital Bank of the Year. That says to you how extensively we had sort of digitized our processes and, enabled digital platforms to enable us, operate at that level. But, with the arrival of COVID-19, I would say it was the first acid test of the resilience of what we had built. And what we had to do, it was unprecedented in its magnitude, unprecedented in its timing, and the way it accelerated, and we all had to shut down. Come COVID-19, since March, I've been working in here in my home office since March, and we haven't relocated back to our various, locations with, of course, our branches open. So what happened? We broke it, almost instantly into 3 phases: rapid response, rapid resilience, rapid recovery. Rapid response to say you just had to respond immediately. Business continuity became the first thing to deal with. So for us, because we already had all the infrastructure, digital channels running, digital enablement running, digital processes enabled, back office processes enabled by digital tools and applications. As a matter of fact, we had actually already begun building a digital workforce. We had the digital academy already. We had everything that was running to enable a digital future. Yeah, but the digital future accelerated into now became for us the first acid test of, is this real and can this work? So we had to deploy very quickly the mechanisms into ensuring business continuity, everyone goes digital. We had to, in my space, transit all our HR processes onto the digital platform. Excitedly, I can say to you that we've, till date, run every single HR process digitally, from hire to fire, from recruitment to engagement, to performance management, to learning, to exit management. Nothing has fallen through the cracks. So it does say to me that the infrastructure that we already had in place, the digital transformation journey became in itself, the backbone for enabling us to navigate COVID-19. Our focus then became, how do we keep risk in check? So risk management became, you had to redefine your people risk management. With everyone now running digitally, we had to begin to think of cyber risk. We had to begin to think extensively of people risk beyond just, we had to think welfare, safety. How do we ensure that our people are safe from COVID-19? How do we ensure that at the same time, whilst keeping people safe, we could open up all our channels and ensure that customers continued, to interact. So in my view, because we're on a digital transformation journey, was infrastructure enabled, we could easily transit. More importantly, we had to focus on risk management and how do we ensure that the attending risks were appropriately mitigated.
Okay. So quick follow-up before I go to Razak. In this period, did you hire people, and did you and this thing you just talked about, this digitization and bringing the future into now, did it affect what kind of skill sets you were looking for, how you engage with people, how you interview, onboarding? When you onboard, did you meet with anybody physically? How did that happen in this period?
Just hearing you talk, I'm excited. We continued business as usual, status quo. I ran all interviews. Did we hire? Absolutely, yes. We continued resourcing. We continued onboarding. We continued induction. Everything ran digitally. We had a graduate trainee program that was running. Our graduate trainee program runs 6 weeks in our brick and mortar Blue Academy in Ikeja. We had it in its second week when COVID-19 broke. So we broke them back straight home, straight into digital. We graduated them digitally. We completed the 4 weeks digitally, graduated them digitally. They've since been deployed digitally. Offer letters issued online. We've got the EchoSign. Offer letters issued on signed on EchoSign and then sent PDF to all new employees. We run induction live, onboarding live. Onboarding live on digital platforms. I get to meet everyone. We run everything. I haven't physically met some good number, 100 plus, 200 thereabout. I haven't digitally met a couple of 100 employees. Some people haven't digitally met them. All shortlisting interviews, some of them ran 6, 7 interviews, all digitally. And we're working. Now, this is the future, people. This is the gig economy. This is what is going to happen. This is what has been predicted as the future of work. Here now, Industry 4.0, the gig workers are not really going to need to walk into a physical brick and mortar environment to be employed. The question is, are you ready? Are you equipped to operate as a gig worker? Are you able to deploy your portfolio of skills in this new environment?
Excellent, Funke. Very, very, very exciting to hear all of this. Very exciting. Razak, so going from a very established firm, but obviously very, very nimble in Stanbic IBTC, to a new economy business like yours, seemingly created for a time such as this. How would you say you've managed the last 6 to 9 months of COVID, and both in terms of your adaptation and maybe even how you've then handled all your sort of work issues, staffing issues, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, thank you, Yemi. In our case, it wasn't so much of a shock, because originally the first principle behind the operation of the company is digital. So going digital wasn't a shock. It's more or less like a continuation of what we've already established. However, COVID brought with it a different dimension. Remote work has been around, and is growing in popularity, but the whole idea of health pandemic is a different variable in that equation. So people can work from home normally, but working from home with the anxiety that you might get infected and, is a question of, life and death situation. brings with it a different burden entirely, a different psychological burden that staff will go through. So yeah, in terms of remote work, it wasn't in any way different. Just like Funke said, we've also been working like 100% remote since March. But before March, we started out some remote experiments, like working 4 days a week in office and then 1 day off office. And that has been working pre-March for us. So it's March, we just went 100% working remotely. So as I mentioned, it wasn't so much of a shock in terms of how the business has been structured, in terms of how the key stakeholders are engaged, especially customers. So traditionally, all our customer service delivery points are digital. So we didn't even usually encourage, physical interaction, so to speak. So it's more or less like a new development for some new customers who felt that you couldn't actually meet these people physically, and then you have to adopt the digital channel. So from customers' point of view, we saw a massive increase actually in terms of customer acquisition. Now, a major setback for us was in terms of staff productivity. And that was actually driven by the anxiety around the time. If COVID wasn't around and we had to go full-time remote, like 100% remote, the situation would be completely different. But having to carry that burden of, health pandemic was a different situation entirely. Then the other thing has to do with how productivity is measured, right? If you have good number of staff and you want to ensure that people work 100% remotely in a very productive way, then there is a need to have digital tools that will enable the measurement of productivity efficiently. So adopting new tools that allows, measurement of productivity is one challenge that we have to, deal with. And traditionally, of course, we had a lot of tools we used, but because we weren't 100% remote from day one in terms of staff, then we had to employ more tools. But from the customer's point of view, it wasn't different at all. From day one, we were 100% digital. The only thing that changed for us is from the staff point of view, from working 80% in office to working 100% remote. And then we had to bring in new tools for staff productivity and so on and so forth. So, but overall, with the decline in the COVID issues, we've seen that people are coming back to normal life situation where the anxiety around health issues is no longer in the equation. So we're beginning to experience full-time remote work experience at this point. So overall, the major area of difference for us is from staff point of view, going to work 100%, but from customer point of view, it has always been the same. And we've also seen some remarkable improvement in customer adoption, especially given the fact that digital has become the way of life.
Fantastic. Thanks, Razak. I'll take my next question to Funke. How does so you said 4 years ago, you guys began this journey, putting together a lot of tools. So hopefully you're still thinking about the future, even though that future in some ways has come to meet with you already. May I ask, how does your organization conceive of the future of work in financial services, given that, so now talking specifically of the digital conversation, automation, you mentioned the fourth industrial revolution, connectivity, connectedness, the use of analytics, digitalization you mentioned, and then, Razak even mentioned tools to measure performance. How does my boss know I'm doing well? Is it just measuring deliverables? What are those things you would say? Can you offer thoughts on look ahead even for another 4 to 5 years and say, and say what your organization, how your organization has conceived that future would look like, given the technology that's available or that's being dreamed about, and how it would affect your workspace?
Thanks very much. So the future of financial services is quite exciting, hugely leveraging on technology, I would say. The future, as we see it, is you don't need to physically You don't need to do, there's no transaction. The future is such that there's no transaction you should need to do that should take you physically into a financial services institution that you cannot do on your device. So the future is that enabled by technology. And so we see the future as excitingly digital. Firstly, we see the future as an opportunity for us to converge all our value proposition to our clients in one location. We see the future as one that would leverage hugely on a digital workforce. By that, I mean a digital skill pool. We see the future as a good blend of man and machine. We see the future such as the work that you do, where you do the work and who you do the work with will be continuously evolving, such that where you do the work, as we can see, as Razak earlier said, has transited from physical office locations to remote working, wherever it is that the tools are available for you to do the work. Secondly, who you do the work with, a good, beautiful combination of man and machine is what we'll see with the rapid advancement in technology. As I speak to you today, we've got 5 robots in our workforce. So already the future is upon us. We've got 5 robots in our workforce, and these robots were built by our colleagues. So the journey started, we had, and when we were sort of recognized as Digital Bank of the Year in 2018, we had like 3 robots then: ATM reconciliation, loan booking and disbursement. We had web settlement, all of those already robotized. So we see the future where this is BAU, is normalcy, where the rapid advancement in technology, artificial intelligence, robotics would enable the digital delivery of financial services to our customers in a manner that is desirable by the customer. We see a future where the customer dictates the digital delivery of solutions to them. We see a future where our workforce will be absolutely upskilled to, meet up with this digital skill requirement. I said we started a few years ago the Digital Academy. With the Digital Academy, we have the foundation school where everybody must go through. It takes you through the basics. And then we've got the boot camps. And then we've got the specific skill pool sets that is meant for the IT team, that is meant for, specific areas. At the end of the day, the journey is supposed to be a continuous one, because the future that we see is not a future that stops learning. It's a future that keeps the organization ahead. The organization needs to be ahead of the block, ahead of this whole revolution that is continuously evolving. So we see a future, when I said we started a few years ago, we didn't imagine that at that time, 2018, we had 3 robots. Now we had 5 robots, all built internally. And at the end of the day, you want to ask yourself, how far is this going to go in the next 5 years? I don't know. I just know we have to keep responding as is required. But I see that the blend of the workforce, man and machine, will continue. That divide will continue to be blurred. It will continue to get more and more, closed in, and it will continue to be blurred. Yeah.
Fantastic, Funke. And last question to Razak before we open it for questions. What would you say? Therefore, Funke mentioned continuous learning through all these tools, customer delivery. She talked about the use of robots. So there's this thing, are we going to be replaced or not? Are we just going to be augmented by the use of some of these AI robotic tools? May I ask, what do you think would be the biggest outlook for people who are starting their careers now, Razak? If they're coming to an organization like yours, or maybe even Funke's type of business in financial services, should it just be your finance, accounting, CFA, should you continue, or should you be adding to, in addition to your CFA exams, be adding some other things? You'll be getting degrees in data analytics. Should we be getting extra classes from David Brown? Should we be, what in addition to our financial knowledge would you say we need to be paying attention to in order to fit in with the workforce of the future? I'll allow Razak to take that on.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Yemi. I think I have 2 perspectives on that issue. First is, as we have more remote work environments across different companies, and this even goes beyond financial services, right? From health to financial services to, name it. As we have remote work play out substantially, then the competition goes beyond local. Because what that means is that you can actually get anyone from anywhere in the world to work for you. So it means even if you have local certification or local skill, it doesn't mean the labor market is just meant for the local market only, right? The labor market is becoming global. And this is so because some of these digital skills that are required for today's companies are sometimes not readily available locally. So as a progressive company, you are forced to look outward. And when I mean outward, you're looking beyond Nigeria. You're looking at probably Ghana, South Africa, and more importantly, you're looking at even more developed countries, US, Europe, and India, and Asian countries, right? So that's one area that we need to put into perspective. The competition will go global. So the labor market becomes even much bigger than it is currently, and employers will go for the best talents to get the job done, because at that point, you don't really need people to come to the office. They can do it remotely. So that's one. Second is, as we adopt technology, to deliver services, especially for customers, there are two opportunities there. Of course, the customer's universal set increases. It means you can actually deliver services to a lot more customers than originally possible, right? When that happens, it means that the kind of skill set that the staff or the workforce needs to deliver those services, the skill sets have also changed materially. So if you are a chartered financial analyst, for example, it means that you need to have additional skill sets that will allow you to deliver those services to those customers in a way that meets their expectations. And that is where the issue of AI comes in, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all of that. And it's quite interesting that even the CFA program has come to that is leading in that front as well. They've incorporated some, what's it called, programming in the curriculum, just to introduce students, early to these new frontiers. So it is quite important that we realize that, the core fundamental is still finance, but the mode of delivery is changing rapidly. And mode of delivery will be informed by how much of user experience, how much of user insight we have. And getting user insight also requires that we apply different technologies, new skill sets to be able to gather data. In the past, gathering data about companies usually, digging deep into their financials. But today, in addition to the financials, you can get a lot more data sets from various angles because people are making use of a lot of digital footprints, not just from their customer point of view, but also from the company's point of view. So having programming language, understanding some programming languages, in addition to core finance, will be an added advantage. So the way I see, just one last item, the way I see this panning out is, in the past, when you see a finance company or an investment management company, and you count the number of staff, usually you see probably 95, 96% of the staff will be based on those who have finance knowledge, right? Core, the core team. But that will change continuously. And you begin to see probably between 30, 40, 50% of the core staff actually being those who are in engineering or digital skill sets.
Okay. Thank you very much, Razak. That's interesting. That's a challenge to every one of us in terms of having to do this continuous learning, adding more skills to ourselves. So we all knew it, right? That we just need to do more and more. I'll open the floor now to the audience. We've had two fantastic rounds of presentations on their thoughts of the future of work. If you could please use the, I think there's is it chat function or is it Q&A function at the bottom, to sort of ask your questions, and then I will direct it to them.
So if you could just use the chat, if you could just type your questions in the chat and type any question in the chat. Can see no questions on right now. Quite a few people are jumping into each of the corporate rooms that we have, in and out of the corporate rooms. So that's great. So I would like us to kind of pretend we're really in a live physical space, and each of those corporate rooms are actual rooms. Let's just imagine that. So we need more people to come back into the main room and you can ask questions.
I think some people need to be unmuted, I guess.
Oh.
So we have Promise, has his hand up. Let me unmute Promise. Promise.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Promise. Go ahead.
Yes, so I thank everyone for this section. I'm really enjoying it. David Brown, it's an honor to meet you. I've been a follower of your works for a long time now. So my question is, considering how things are changing in the finance industry, are there really rooms for career advancement for people interested in finance without professional qualifications? That's just my simple questions. Because I think in the area of finance, I don't think we can really do without professional qualifications, but I want to hear practical perspectives from professionals like you and speakers. Thank you.
So Yemi, over to you. You can go ahead. I'll just control the. Okay, is Yemi there? Okay.
Okay, let me attempt. Oh, Yemi is also muted. Well, the host is muted. That's interesting.
So maybe we should just give it a shot, if you don't mind.
Just give it a shot. Random shot. Random shots. Yes, go ahead,
Right.
please.
Okay, so there will always be a place for professional certification. It's like asking the question, will there always be a place for medical doctors and practitioners? There will always be a place for your skill sets that is specialist in nature. But what you must understand, so I've said that to say, please, by all means, continue to pursue your professional certification. What you must understand about the reality of the future of work. And if you follow the World Economic Forum's prediction way back to about 10 years ago about the future of work, some of which we're seeing really come to pass now, you would tell that there are skills that are declining, there are skills that are growing in demand, and there are skills that will continue to grow in demand. So the question every professional should be asking themselves is not how many professional certifications do I need to get? And I'm telling you this as an HR professional. I think that those are considered low-hanging. I expect you to have professional certification as a finance person. I expect it to be a given. What I do not expect that you will delight me with when you come to the table to have an engagement concerning a potential job is I would expect to see that you have a portfolio of enterprise skills. So your professional certification is just a platform. It's a base for you to acquire the additional skills. World Economic Forum said a long time ago that by 2020, which has now come to pass now, that digital literacy skill will be 680% in higher demand. Now, my view of the world, of what we have actually now in 2020 is that it is suddenly like 3 times more with COVID-19 having, accelerated the digital adoption across, the consumer appetite. I believe that those who would succeed in this future that is upon us now are professionals who, like one of the writers I love so much on Future of Work called Linda Grattan says, you must make a shift from being what she calls a shallow generalist to becoming a serial master. So you must look for, how do I have a portfolio of skills that I call double digit, so that you have a finance certificate. It's just one. I expect you to keep counting 2, 3, 4 until you get to double digit, 10, 11, 12. And to do that, you need to begin to acquire digital skills, artificial intelligence, data. Data is king. We're talking about insights, analytics. Data is king. Finance gives you that basic foundation. Your professional certification gives you the ability to acquire, to perform wonders with data, to perform wonders with artificial intelligence. See it that way. I'd like to move the professional of the future of work away from conversations around certifications. Just professional certificate. I'm a professional, I'm certified CFA, certified this, certified that. I usually say to people, and what next? I expect to see that you are becoming you're having a mastery of a series of digital not just digital, but digitally inclusive portfolio of enterprise skills. Those who would succeed would need a magical portfolio of skills, those who will succeed in the times as we go on, who would lead us into the fifth industrial revolution, are going to be beyond just professional finance people, professional, what we know as HR people, professional. No, it's going to be those who have become blended and serial masters. I hope this helps you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Funke. Thanks a lot for that. So Razak, I think we'll just take another question and that will be addressed to you. I don't think Yemi is back. Is Yemi back? Okay. So Ayuba is here, and I'm going to release your mic now. Ayuba, you can go ahead with your question. Just click the button and go ahead. Ayuba Inde. It's a button, you just click and then we can hear you once you click that button. Okay, Ayuba, last chance, because another Aisha has her hand up. So I'm going to jump to Aisha as well, see who goes first. Aisha, Remy.
Yes, I'm able to unmute myself.
Good, go ahead, Aisha.
Okay, thank you, CFA Society for providing the platform, and then the panelists for setting the tone for the fair. So I think my comment and my question goes to how much of willingness are employers, how much of willingness are they thinking of in providing resources for their employees to work offsite. And I say this because when you look at, let's bring it down to Nigeria. When you look at the top two challenges for anybody to be a remote worker, you look at electricity and internet. And while you've seen top players abroad say that they're like, I think Facebook, Google, they've said that employees can work from home till like 2021. But when you bring it down to Nigeria, you ask yourself, what is the sincerity really when employers say that they are happy with employees working from home from a perspective of them providing resources? So I think of if as an employer, you've gotten to the point where you've restructured or reorganized your job responsibilities for remote workers, are you willing to have maybe like a small solar package for any employee that might have electricity issue? Are you willing to give data bundle to somebody who has like internet challenges at home? How much of cost are they willing to take on if they're really serious about the remote working to help employees overcome the challenges?
Thank you, Aisha. Excellent question. Over to you, Razak.
Yeah, Aisha, thanks for this. There are two things there. First is the willingness of employers to actually support staff given the current reality. And then the second is what is the value of that support, especially given some of the national constraints that might be available. So I'll give example of how we currently operate. In our case, we provide data support and call support for key staff that engage with, say, customer service and so on and so forth, to ensure that they can continuously support their staff. They can continuously support customer service delivery. However, we've seen constraints in terms of quality of data bundle, for example, or electricity. Yeah, you mentioned the issue of a solar panel. That's actually a new one for me. I don't know how many staff one can actually provide solar panel for, but overall, it is a reality we have to face. Yeah, employers are willing, especially if you really want to boost staff productivity, to support them in terms of providing, necessary assistance that can allow them deliver their job appropriately. But the truth is we still face challenges with respect to electricity, with respect to the quality of data, quality of connectivity. And there is little we can actually do with respect to that. But overall, there has been some support, and the whole idea is to continuously see how that support can be made to be more meaningful and to enable staff to be more productive.
Thank you, Razak. Thank you, Funke, and thank you, audience for all the wonderful questions. Just a quick summary. We've heard that in order for the future of work requires businesses to be digitally ready, to be able to move all their businesses, their processes offline, including hiring, including onboarding, all those wonderful things that we thought physically. And in terms of your operations, both in terms of customer acquisition, customer service, and it turns out even performance management, being able to manage your staff, businesses need to be ready to have the back office, front office support. The future of work looks like we're going to have all this technology available with us, from robots to AI, machine learning, automation. It's not so much that those things are going to replace humans, but they provide human beings with ability to scale up their work, to their work processes, to do more. But it does require some adaptation from us in terms of knowledge of maybe acquiring different skill sets, from coding to knowing how to use all these different technologies in order to turbocharge our work and our environment. We also learned that businesses need to think about how the workplace, how when it comes to remote work, how they can support their staff. Remember that offices used to pay for, in one location, for generator, internet, and all of that, and they sort of pushed out all that responsibility to their staffers. So there has to be some cognition as to if you're trying to ensure productivity is not lost, that your staff have the required support. And I think lastly, Razak mentioned that competition is now global. If you all can work from home, your employees can be anywhere in the world today. And so that brings more competition for those of us who are working locally and maybe don't have all those sort of skill sets that are cutting edge in the world today. These conversations hopefully will continue. Talk to your employers, talk to the CFA Society, talk to Razak, Funke. Feel free to reach out to your favorite HR person, talk to our people in employee relations, how they can speak to your organizations about how to support you as a CFA Society member, including how to prepare for the future of work. Thank you all for this panel. My panelists, Funke, Razak, you guys have been spectacular, giving us a wonderful insight as to your past, how you handle things in the past, and also how you're setting up yourself for success in the future. I hope the best people come to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Funke, thanks, Razak, and thanks, Yemi. Wonderful discussions. And please, everybody, because you can always jump and pop into the various companies, the various rooms. You just look at the room tag there and you jump into the company and you go and have a chat with people that are already there to chat with you. So if some people have the old version of the Zoom, you have to update your Zoom account. Update your Zoom account, whether you're using your phone, just update it, and then you'll see breakout rooms. Then you can jump into breakout rooms, which are really the corporate rooms for the various sponsors that we have here. There are people there to talk to you. Anything you need to know, maybe even, who knows, maybe do a spot interview. I don't know, but just jump in and see what's up. So this is the new age. This is the new digital age, and it's amazing. It opens up. There's something Razak said. Competition is now global. Are you scared or are you excited? That's the question I'll ask you. For me, I'm excited, because if you know the kind of quality you have, that means you can compete with someone in Australia right now for a job. They will employ you sitting here and you're working for a company in Australia. Why not? Because we don't need to physically be there. So hopefully people will stop going to Canada, right? But anyway, so it's all good. So everybody, thank you very much for this session. We're going to jump straight into the next session. This was Insights into the Future of Work in Finance and Investment Industry. We had Razak Ahmed, CFA, we had Olufunke Amobi, and we had our moderator, Yemi Oshinobi. Thank you very much. So in our next session, we're going to be talking about, well, it's really a fireside chat, with industry veterans. So in our next session, I hope we can go to the next slide, please. So our next session, I'll just jump in, is going to be with David Wanu, CFA, Managing Director, CEO of Sigma Pensions Limited. Bukun Oyedeji, CFA, Chief Financial Officer, EcoBank Nigeria. And the session is going to be moderated by Chuka Madwabom, who is CFA, also Vice President, Uhuru Investment Partners. So this is a fireside chat with industry veterans. So we're going to hear from them, their wealth of experience, and of course, you'd have a Q&A at the end. So let's jump in right now. I don't know if Chuka, are you here? And our host, please, you need to unmute Chuka if he's muted.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you, David.
Great, great. Over to you, sir.
Okay, yes, thanks, David. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. What I would just like to add before we start the session is that for the audience, feel free to, to put your questions on the chat and also highlight which, moderator you would like to address the question to. Yeah. So Dave, Ibuku, you're welcome. Both of you have had very successful careers. You are seen as thought leaders in your respective industries, and a result of that, I would imagine that the audience would really be curious during your career, would like to get a sense of the highlights of your career. So maybe Ibuku, I would like you to start.
Hi, Chuka. Thank you for putting me on the spot. Good afternoon, everyone. I was hoping Dave would start first so I can piggyback on him. I think for me, in terms of my career, I'll probably be. I'll probably be the keyword I would use. I'll probably be the traditional person. Sorry, there's someone that needs to mute. I'm having very bad feedback here. Very. Um, it's been one of those interesting careers because I've not been one of those that have sat through a role and just risen all the way to the top. So different aspects. I started my career as a trader in the old Continental Trust Bank, and from there I moved on to Grant.
I think her network cut off.
So hi, Chuka. Chuka, if you're
Okay,
there.
yes.
I think Ibukun's network just cut off.
Yeah, so I guess we're having a bit of technology issues. And what I would like us to do while we wait for Ibuku to come on is to, move over to Dave. So Dave, are you fine? Are you good to go? Okay, I think Ibuku is back.
Hi, Chuka. Sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm not sure.
Sorry, I've unmuted.
Okay.
Do you want me to continue, or do you want Dave to go?
Yeah.
What's the question?
What I'm thinking is, so that we don't break the flow, since you're back, I think you can continue.
This is interesting.
And your network seems weak, Ibuku.
Okay, and then I move into, sorry, Dave, sorry, I'd like to. I don't, I'm not that tech. I'm even streamed. I've used it 3 different network providers. One more if while Dave is talking. But for me, can you hear me? Just let me know if you can hear me, then I'll continue.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So like I said earlier, and I've just been one of those that's had all those different time lags in terms of my career, different shifts in terms of my career, and I've done asset management, and here I am now doing the CFA, which is a finance role. I think when I say when I talk about my the highlights of my career, at every point in time when I've actually taken those steps in terms of my career, they have been exciting because they were quite new challenges. There were new aspects because they always.
Sorry, Ibukun. Sorry, just hold on, please. David, can you hear Ibukun, or is it from me?
No, I can't hear her. So it's gone on and off. So maybe she can switch off her video to reduce the bandwidth consumption. So maybe we'll now hear her. So maybe it's best to jump to Dave and then come back to
Haven't tried. He always created for an avenue for me to take up the challenge, to actually look at things from a perspective of I need to deliver. Just use voice and it'll be better. So
correct.
Now.
Please continue talking. If we can't hear you, we'll let you know. Hello? Okay, what I suggest is we let Dave speak, and we hope that, when Dave is done talking, Ibuku's connection would have improved by then. Dave, are you there? Hello, Dave?
Shuka, I'm muted now. It's difficult. Can the whoever in charge allow us to mute and unmute, because that way you can't, Okay, can you ask the question? I didn't get the question.
Yes, Dave. Okay, so just to rephrase, I would like to find out those things that you're really excited about, those things that you achieved in your career, those things you're really, really excited about. You had a very successful career.
Okay, I think, thank you for having me. I thank you, CFA Society. Again, if the audience can hear me, I think, like I said to the moderator, it would be good to have questions from the team, from the audience. It's very difficult to attempt this question. Well, let me try. So I think there are 3 or 4 key highlights. Obviously, one of them was crossing over from being an engineering graduate and then doing audit to finance. And with that, getting the CFA charter, that's the first answer. I mean, in terms of career, I've been working for 29 years now. I think there are 2 things that I would say key highlights. One was when we did the acquisition of an insurance company, and I led that. So that was many years ago. And I remember saying to someone in my office when I was your age, I'd already done this. So this is something I was most proud of, because I was able to raise capital to finance the acquisition of a company. And it sounded like a textbook play where you set up an SPV, raise the capital structure, and buy the company, then you turn up and try to run the company. So I mean, that's now what typical private equity would do. But then private equity wasn't mainstream in Nigeria. The other two was being, again, writing the business plan at the beginning of the whole pension reform to set up.
I can see it. So the thing is supposed to click.
Can we go on mute if you are not speaking, please? So being able to set up a pension fund from scratch, doing the business plan, and I think I still have a copy of that business plan. I think the last one and the next one is obviously partnering with a PE firm to acquire another company. So I would say that I'm most excited when I do deals, when I either buy, well, not that I buy it. I was telling my daughter the other day that, she was asking me that, what do you do? You keep talking about these things. You used to work in a company, you've changed to another one. So I told her, well, what I like to do and what I try to do is to almost like buy a company, run it for a while and sell it. So can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Dave. You can go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
I can hear him very clearly.
Yeah. So no, Chuka is struggling. So I think I'm a deal junkie. I like to do transactions, but I don't like trading. I don't like stock trading. I like to trade companies, and trading companies take time. It takes something you do. You do over a period of time. Maybe you buy it and over 2-3 days you sell it. And I've recently pivoted to, on my own personal side, being an angel investor and backing small companies that are at very early stages. And I hope that someday I will hit a home run like the Paystack people have hit a home run. So if there are people in the audience that are thinking of starting companies, particularly, very niche sectors, not just fintech, but even within the fintech, very niche sectors, it's something I like to do. But very early days, seed round, pre-seed, not when the check size is big. So I think my highlights have been when I've been able to invest in a company, but not just invest in a company, work with a company, turn it around. I like working with people. So the intersection of investment strategy and people is really what I like, where you engage with management team, you try to do things, fast-paced, deliver timelines, and you do an exit and you make money. Obviously for everybody, not just yourself, and management team makes money, the investors make money, and everybody's happy. So Chuka, that would be my response.
So while Chuka is trying to reconnect, thanks a lot, Dave. This is David here, and we're just trying to get Chuka back. But thanks a lot for that. I mean, the intersection between investments itself, investment strategy, and people, it's really where it's at. So I will see if Ibukun is back. But what I would like to tell the audience is anyone that has a question, just raise your hand. And while we're in between talks with our guests, we'll be able to kind of unmute your mic and you ask your questions live, okay? So if you have a question, you could just raise your hand and then we'll release your mic. All right.
David, thanks.
Chuka, are you back?
Thanks for. Yes.
Right.
I would also appreciate we can unmute ourselves because it's very difficult to unmute, based on the current system. So if Frank,
I agree with you, Chuka.
Yeah. Okay. So Ibukun, are you good to go?
I hope so. I've turned off my camera as instructed, and I hope you can hear me. I think that's the only thing I need to test now. Can you hear me?
It's a lot better. Yeah.
So I've turned off my camera. So they said it was the camera that was the issue. Apologies for the break. So in terms of, I think David said all the highlights, and he has a more interesting one. However, what I would want to say in terms of, like I said, for every role I've taken, it's always been an interesting journey because I've not had it like a straightforward, a straight jacket career, for me, most times it's the moment it starts getting boring, I become restless and ready for the next one. So I've just had various times where I've been extremely excited to take on the next role and jump on it. But I think if I think through the journey and think of areas where I've been pretty much moved the most in my career, and I'll be very, very honest with you. I think one of the key ones was when I got my job in the UK in Goldman's, because I was coming from Nigeria. I was a Nigerian employee. At that point in time, it was one of the top 2 organizations in the world when it comes to financial institution. I only went to the UK for my master's, and I thought I'll come back after that. And then they came into my school and I got the job. So for me, it was transitioning from an African or a Nigerian developing country and coming into this new world. That was, I keep saying it without any, that was for me the most exciting time in my career, because then I was going from this organization in Nigeria to being on in an international organization. And for me, the key thing that was important in those periods was actually learning the soft skills, because personally, I believe the technical skills are the same everywhere. But the most important thing that you learn in most of those organizations over there is actually the soft skills, how to interpersonal skills, the communication skills, the way you're able to interact with your colleague, emotional intelligence. Those are the key things, because doing a deal, like Dave said, if you're doing a deal, doing a deal is doing a deal. It's the process of doing a deal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever it takes. But it's actually the extra touch in which you're able to put into those transactions that make a difference. So I'll stop there for you to continue with your questions. So I'm not taking too much of your time.
Yes, sure, Ibuko, well said. From what you've said, you really like, in a nutshell, you really love challenges, and that is why you've done different things across your career path, and you've also emphasized the importance of soft skills. At this point, I would like to go to the audience. Like David said initially, you can raise your hand if you have questions, and so that would allow you to ask your questions to the moderator, or you can also put your question on the chat space. Okay, yeah, Uche has a question. Let me see. Yeah, so can you allow Uche ask? Can you unmute
Uche? Has been unmuted.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah, can you all hear me very well?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Uche.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. My question goes to Dave. Dave, you were talking earlier, and you said you are an engineer, and then you moved to investment and financial services. So I don't know if you worked in engineering at all, or before making that move, or you started early enough in this particular field. I'm just asking because myself, I'm an engineer as well. I've worked many years in engineering, basically project development around energy projects, and delivering project development and execution. But now wanting to go more into a business side of energy sector and basically investment and the rest of them. So just thinking about how I want to make that move. And then when you mentioned your background is in engineering, so that struck my head. I said, okay, let me just ask this question. Did you really practice engineering before making that move, or something you started?
No, I didn't. I didn't practice engineering. I wasn't called to be an engineer. I studied engineering because I was good in physics, chemistry, and mathematics. And back in the days, from where I come from, unfortunately, if you are good in those subjects, they push you to do engineering. And if you are lucky, you know biology, they push you to go and study medicine. So that's what happened. But I didn't. After school, I already knew I wasn't going to practice engineering, so I didn't apply to any engineering roles. I applied to work for Ernst & Young, and I got a role as an auditor, carrying files and papers and doing audit. So from there, I then moved into finance. When I finished my ICANN exams, I then moved into finance because I was working for a consulting firm and we were doing financial advisory type work, due diligence type work, and and I then did the CFA. But what I would say to you is, engineers are wired to do finance because finance is very quantitative. It's logical and quantitative. And if you want to make a transition, you have two principal ways. One could be, obviously, it's important that maybe you write the CFA exams or you do an MBA in finance. I mean, while the CFA exam is great, there's nothing better than practical experience. So if you can find a way to then, get a job in a consulting firm or advisory firm, I don't know how old you are. The older, the more difficult. But if you're young, the easiest transition to do is to go do your CFA or write an MBA, do an MBA, and then try and get a role. And you start as an associate, and then you start, you work your way up. And that applies to most people, whether you're an engineer, you're a pharmacist, or you're a scientist and you want to go into finance. But if you are fresh from school, for those in the audience who are fresh graduates, the easier way to do is to get a job in one of the audit firms or consulting firms, or now with even PE houses or advisory firms, and you can go from there and then you get your certification, CFA, and maybe an MBA.
Okay, yeah, so Dave, well said. Over to Precious.
Two more hands up, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Precious, feel free to speak.
Okay, yeah, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, go ahead, Precious.
Okay, yes. Please, thank you. The whole presentation and everything was going very well. And but then my concern is this: as a young graduate, how can one transit into finance? For instance, I'm a young graduate. I'm very interested in finance, but then with the whole professional exams and certifications, how can I navigate? How can I, move to the industry? So that's my concern. Thank you. I don't know. Sorry, do you hear me?
Yeah, sure. I can take that. I literally just said it. You're a young graduate. You want to go into finance. You have 3 tracks. You have 3 things you need to do. You need to be genuinely interested in finance. You need to read, in your spare time. Stop reading, I don't know what you read, but read things like The Economist, read, even if you can afford a business day, and get involved in economy. Secondly, you need to start thinking about certification. Like the CFA is a great certification for you since you're a young graduate. It's affordable and it's not expensive. And lastly, try and get a role. Lastly, you need to try and get a role in a finance type institution. It could be in an audit firm, Big 4 firm, where you are learning, audit or doing advisory work. Or it could be in an investment bank, the local investment banks. Or it could be in a pension fund company. It could be in a bank. But whatever it is, try and get a role where you are involved in some aspect of finance. And since you're a young graduate, accounting will do just as well. Accounting is a great way to start your career locally and then enter finance. But your certifications are important. But you need to be committed. It takes a lot of hard work. I find people want to do things others have done, but they are not willing to make the sacrifice. You need to forget about some of your friends, and you need to forget your phone. I think one of the problems with young people is their phone. You need to forget your phone. You need to study. Finance is tough. It's for tough people, but the rewards are incredibly, good.
If I'm allowed to piggyback on what Dave said, I think for me, the first thing I would say, I don't know what degree you studied, so I don't know if you're already in the finance space, but one of the things I tell people fundamentally is finance is an avenue, like David said to you he came from engineering, that gives you, irrespective of the aspect of life that you or what you study, it gives you an opportunity for you to express yourself. So for people that study, I know people in one of the companies I sit on the board of, that it's a medical director, but guess what? He is in charge of is the CDO of this bank, of this institution. And it's a financial institution, and he's doing extremely well because he's been able to express himself. He started off in the normal IT space, and he's now decided he wants to go into finance full time. In my previous roles as well, I've seen medical doctors decide that they want to go finance, and in some cases, you have the corporate finance desk that your skills as a doctor or as a medical person becomes to come into play when you have to assess health industry and the skills that relates to it. Even in terms of engineering as well. You have also engineering desk where they need the specialties, the skills of even petroleum engineers. How do I assess the value of an oil? What's it called? What's it called? Oil, is it rig? No, it's OML, an OML. How do I assess it? I need the skills of a petroleum engineer to be able to do that. And even if as a finance person, I can only look at it from the numbers perspective, but they know that if I do assessment result, this is what it is. If it's at this level, there's this range. So the finance perspective, finance gives you a wide range. So while people always think I need to do this, and get it, I think a full expression of yourself is extremely important. And one of the things I tell people, please be yourself. Just be yourself. I mean, I had colleagues that were extremely, like I told you, very smart. They knew what they wanted. As soon as they came out of school, they got into Arthur Andersen, they got into all those places, and they had good careers. But guess what? That was the path they chose. I knew I didn't like audit. I knew it wasn't something that was for me because I'm a bit active, or will I say hyper. I knew that I'll get bored easily, so I couldn't be stuck behind papers and looking and spending time doing that. So it was extremely important. And one of the things I learned from one of my mentors or people I look up to, which is Carla Harris, is you need to bring yourself to whatever work you want to do. And it's extremely important as you think through it that you ask yourself the key question, which Dave raised earlier on. Is this for me? Not because everyone is doing it, not because of the money, not because of what it looks like, but in the real sense of it, does this fit my profile and does this work for me? That's where what I wanted to contribute.
Okay, thank you, Ibuku. Well said. Clearly, you and Dave have a couple of things in common, and one of them is that audits clearly isn't your thing. I would read out a question. This is from Chinyere Akuna. She wants your advice on career transition from finance reporting in an FMCG company to corporate finance in a financial services company, maybe like a bank. Who wants to take a stab at it?
Take that. I think. Okay, Jay, do you want to go?
No, go ahead.
I think for me, you're doing financial reporting. The first thing, I don't know what the FMCG is. So most times, most of the FMCG, normally the big ones have a corporate finance desk. And in that corporate finance desk, I think a conversation, and most times when they have that desk, they put together the finance desk where you sit already. And so it's very easy for you to be having a conversation with your bosses that this is what I'm looking at, and is there an opportunity for me? Another thing I learned in my career is the importance of volunteering. And it's something that it hasn't been overemphasized over here in Nigeria. When you volunteer, I mean, what it does for you in your spare time, it gives you an opportunity for you to build the skills in the area where you want to focus in the future. And volunteering, like Dave said earlier on, finance is something that takes your time and it takes a lot of dedication to it. So if you're volunteering in that space, one of the things you need to think about is your ability to dedicate your weekends to doing this work. Let me just use Dave as an example. Dave says he does angel investing, and he does that. It's possible for you to say, Dave, I have my Saturdays and Sundays. Is it okay for me to support you? And when you volunteer, please don't expect a pay. It's for you to get the skills required to be able to do what you need. So in that space, Dave owes you the responsibility to ensure he grooms you in the skills you want to develop, because that is the currency you're exchanging with him. And so in that process, you pick up the skills and can update your CV correctly to be able to say, I have the skills. And it's not all the time that as you transition, it has to be one of the big ones. There's so many small institutions as well, small financial institutions that are happy or looking for people to actually come on board. So when you learn those skills in those organizations, when the big ones open, the transition becomes very easy. That's what I advise people I mentor. And I've seen it work over time. Some are lucky, you get straight into the big ones and you get the bank job. Some people are not. So you need to put the dedication into it for it to deliver the numbers or the results you want it to do. Dave, you may drop your own points as well.
Yeah, just two liners. I think volunteering is great. I remember many years ago, I used to volunteer for the Faith Foundation when Ndidi was running it. And I used to do business plan competition. I was a judge, and that was where I got interested in entrepreneurship. And it was free. We do it on Saturdays. And even now that I do angel investing, I meet entrepreneurial teams that I coach for free. I sit down and I advise them. I tell somebody that half of my time is doing free work. I do free work for a lot of people. Maybe it's businesses or commenting on stuff or helping people resolve. I was helping a law firm do evaluation for a partnership, and they asked me, do I want to pay? I said, no, I'm doing that, but you owe me one. That's how it works. The other point is, finance is not just about getting a job in corporate finance in a bank. The most exciting part of finance is entrepreneurial finance. This is where, and look, guys, you can make a lot of money in entrepreneurial finance, whether you are doing, venture capital or private equity or supporting businesses. There are a lot of you here, there are a lot of businesses that have no idea of how finance works. This is your entry into the finance world. You are doing financial reporting. You can help those businesses look at their books. You can help those businesses do valuation. I believe that you would have done your CFA exam, so you know how to value businesses. You can help them prepare business plan to make a pitch. When you go and interview for your next job, those are the things that will get you the role, not necessarily the financial reporting you are doing now. So volunteering is very powerful, and a lot of people will be happy to share their networks with you.
Sure, Dave, that is brilliant. I totally agree with you. That is where passion comes in. You're sure of what you want to achieve, and you basically go and achieve it. So we've run out of time, and I would want to thank you for sharing your past experience. I noticed the other questions that have been answered, but the good thing is that in the next section, where we talk about career switch, some of these questions could also be answered during the next section. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, the audience, and thank you, the moderators. Really thank you. David, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shuka, and thank you very much to Dave and everybody in Ibukun. Are you still there? Ibukun is there. Great. Thanks a lot, Ibukun. Thanks a lot, Dave. Thanks, Shuka, for the wonderful session. And it seems that people want to shift to finance, and it seems to be like a strange, or is it like I don't know, a mountain that seems very difficult to climb. We need to demystify finance to people and understand that I think finance is life. I don't think there's anything that happens without finance, but I guess I'm biased, so that's fine. So thank you very much, everybody. What a wonderful session. I would like to now quickly jump in to introduce the next session, which is going to really talk about career transition. So career transition is where we're going to, oops, I don't know, the next session. I hope you can see my screen. So, that's the major statement everyone says nowadays. Can you see my screen? So
yeah, we can see it.
okay. So in the next session, we're going to be talking about career transition, tips for switching from back office or non-finance to front office finance and investment roles. So this is interesting because that was the last question that someone asked. And to speak to us to this, or to speak to this topic, is Kikelomo Fisher. She's Division Director, Chief Risk Officer, Leadway Assurance Company Limited. We have Deji Adebusoye, who is Principal, Sahel Capital. We have Odiri Ogini, CFA, Managing Director, United Capital Asset Management Limited. And to moderate this session is Babatunde Oladosu, co-founder and CEO, Edu Bridge Academy. So hope Babatunde is here, and I'll hand over to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, David. Thank you, members and candidates of the CFA Society Nigeria and CFA Institute. Then thank you, everyone in the audience for tuning in. I've listened to the event so far, and I see that the trajectory of questions more or less have led us to where we are right now. So I'm also really excited that we have such a very diverse range of panelists that are going to be discussing this. So I can see Odiri. If Deji is around, maybe Deji can just signify in any way. Then I also know that I've seen Kikelomo at some point. So, hi Odiri. Just testing the microphone. Hi Odiri, can you hear me? Can you say something?
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Odiri. Kikelomo, can you also just go for it briefly?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, good. And Deji? I saw Deji, can you unmute? Oh, I need the host to unmute Deji. Okay, but while we're at that, I should mention that in terms of the wealth of experience and in terms of the breadth of industries that the panelists bring, we have, okay, Deji, looks like you're back. Deji, can you say something?
Yes, yeah, I'm back. Hi, good afternoon.
Oh, great. Good to have the three of you in here. So both Deji and Odiri and Kikelomo have worked in different industries. Kikelomo has worked she's worked all across the board, but she's currently at Leadway, meaning she's going to be bringing the insurance the insurance part of the spectrum to the table. Odiri is managing director at United Capital Asset Management. So that is, we say, front office investment banking. And Deji has worked in operations and also in private equity. So we are going to be bringing all of that. So because of the wealth of experience, I'm going to make sure that we hear from the panelists as much as possible. So I am going to ask questions. I know that we are going to ask one question of one person, but I'm going to encourage you to please, if you have a perspective to add, maybe given the fact that you have worked in different industries. And the example is, if there's something maybe Odiri has said that pertains to maybe asset management, and Kikelomo has something that she thinks is slightly different from my industry, I'm going to invite you to come in and just jump in and give us the different perspectives, just so people get all the breadth of experience that you guys have in terms of work. So I'm going to start by asking, so there's a lot of question around finance. I do feel like finance is a very composite term. It could mean anything. So I'm going to start with Odiri. Your name is first here and you're already unmuted anyways. So what do you do in your industry? What is finance from the perspective of asset management? And what does it mean to be front office in your industry, and what is back office?
All right, thank you, Babatunde, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Odiri Ogini. I'm the CEO for United Capital Asset Management. So asset management is an investment management firm. So you manage portfolios for individuals and institutions, help people manage their wealth, for short. So when you say front office in an investment management firm, you're actually looking at the people who drive the sales. So more like the client advisors, the staff who bring in the clients, and then you also have, so you have the sales team, and then you have the portfolio management team. So the portfolio management, they're involved in managing those funds, investing, making investment decisions, administering the fund per se, ensuring that returns and risk are aligned. So for front office, you have largely the sales team, and then you have the portfolio management team. Now for back office, you have, so for front office, essentially what that means is that this is a unit that is responsible for generating the revenue for the business. And then for back office, you have functions like HR,
finance, risk management, legal, compliance, and operations. So while they are more like cost centers in quotes, and they're not directly generating revenue, they're also a critical part of the structure of an asset management firm in terms of the support that they bring to the transactions that are done or to the clients that are brought in to the business.
Okay, thank you, Diri. So front office for your industry would be bringing in money and making sure that you manage to get the returns that investors are looking for. And back office is all the range of roles that make that happen in terms of support. Now I'm going to go to Kike Lomo. Kike Lomo, from the perspective of insurance, and I also know insurance interfaces with investment management, what would be front office in your industry? So what do you do? Then what is front office and what is back office?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kike Fisher. I'm the Chief Risk Officer for Leadway Assurance. So just very briefly, what does an insurance company do? An insurance company helps individuals and corporates manage their risks. And people might ask, what do you mean by the risk? So it's basically putting in funds forward to mitigate against the potential, either a loss, a risk to your business. I'm sure a lot of people are very familiar with motor insurance. We have life insurance as well. And so basically what an insurance company does is help you guard against excessive losses that you might generate from taking on those risks. Like Odiri said, front office is more or less very similar in an insurance company. It's basically anyone who is client facing who has to bring in revenues for the business. So that entails the commercial team. You have your sales agents and your brokers who are basically the middlemen who help to bring in the funds in for the business, which are the premiums that we get in for us to be able to manage those, potential losses or risks that individuals or businesses might face. So back office would then include things like your corporate finance team, investment team, treasury, risk management, HR, IT, and any team that basically supports the front office guys to be able to deliver in respect to bringing in revenues.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Kike Lomo. I mean, that is really interesting when you mentioned corporate finance, because I worked in corporate finance for a while in an investment bank, and it was basically front office in that investment bank. So it's good to know that when you flip the dial and go to a different industry, so a name could connote something else entirely. So I'll go to Deji now. Deji, how does this pan out in a private equity sense? What do you do in private equity? And what are the differences between what roles are front office and what roles are back office?
Yeah, thank you very much, Babatunde. So I think given what Odiri said earlier, it cuts across almost every industry that the people that you classify as the front office are those who actually go out there and make the money. They are the revenue generating arm of your business. So you only need to now layer that on the industry you're looking at. So if I look at the private equity world, basically you have the nature of the work we do is we raise money from institutional investors or retail investors or investors of multiple types, and the goal is to deploy that fund towards investing in companies that fit in the strategy you want, and then generate returns both for your investors and ultimately for yourself. So if you think about it, the nature of the business we do, the people that help the company to make money are those who go to look for the right companies, those who go to look for the deals to do, and that's the co-investment team. They're the ones looking for the right deal, structuring the right deal, and then those who manage that portfolio and create value in order to generate the returns you are looking for. So basically, from our own perspective, the investment management and portfolio management as well, they constitute the front office. Back office are those critical people, like you never see them. They're the ones you call the coach, the Jurgen Klopps. You never see them directly in front, but they are the ones calling shots behind. So you talk about risk management, you talk about IT, finance, HR, without which we will not be able to get our job done.
Okay, thank you, DG. I mean, thank you also for using a football analogy. That will always get me to smile anytime. So in terms of a summary, so we do know that the front office roles are those roles that do two basic things. They're revenue generating roles. They essentially bring in money, and they also interface with the client. So they're always in the face of the client most times. It doesn't neatly categorize into this every time, but this is like a useful algorithm to think through how to how to think through this. Now, if I'm going to ask, and I'm going to go to Kikelama straight, this is a tactical question. How, if you are going to make this transition from maybe corporate finance, that's the one that sticks to my head, right? In your industry to the front office role, what are the 2-3 different things that you should do immediately in terms of steps? It doesn't have to be categorical. It doesn't have to be sequential, but what are the things that you should be necessarily thinking about immediately?
Okay, I'll try not to limit it to just my industry because I've worked across several industries. And I think this would be a general response for anybody who is trying to do a transition. I think the most important thing is networking within the organization. And if you're looking for opportunities outside the organization, it would also be networking externally. And making sure that you know the right people within the organization who hold specific roles that you need to speak to. Second thing is demonstrating an understanding and a knowledge of why do I really want to move? And am I able to transfer any particular skill that I currently have in my role to a front office role? And a number of times, I think someone here posted when the question was asked, what is a back office role? I'm currently in a back office role, or what some people might argue might be a middle office role. And I would say we're business enablers. And so your understanding of helping the business or enabling the business actually comes to bear when you're looking to transition. And I think having the right conversations with the right people without being scared or worried that you might not necessarily have the adequate skills actually comes to bear when you have conversations with people with regards to what you want to do. And I'll give a very specific example that relates to me. My first career was in regulation, and I worked at the Financial Services Authority in the UK. And as most people might not know, might not understand how regulation is structured, you also have back office and front office roles. And I started off in a back office role. I started off in a team that basically would help organizations who want to get listed on the stock exchange. And basically what I used to do was look at the due diligence that has been done, look at the debt office papers that have been submitted, and determine whether they're eligible to be listed on the stock exchanges or any other smaller exchange if it wasn't a big organization. And that was a back office role because basically you're trolling through documents that somebody else in a due diligence team has worked on, and you're trying to decide, do these people, basically some sort of compliance, do they comply, and do they have the right documents, have they submitted the right documents? And I sort of did that role for 6 months, but I knew I wasn't going to last in that role. And I wanted a client-facing role, which basically required me to advise asset management companies, banks, and basically insurance companies on specific regulations that guide how they operate. And that is more of a client-facing role in a regulatory environment. And I remember my move was made easy by me expressing to as many people who cared to listen to me that I wanted to move, and basically listing what skills I had that was relevant. I had worked somewhere else before, which I had to do financial analysis and some due diligence, which was basically required because I had to look at things that had to do with capital requirements for the banks. And it was around the time Lehman Brothers went down. So they were actually looking for people who understood what capital management was for them to be able to regulate the institutions properly. And I was having a conversation with somebody in the lift when the manager for the market-facing team overheard my conversation about me wanting to move. And that was how I was invited for an interview. And so I would say the first thing is networking. Second thing is being very clear about what you want to do and what skills you bring to the table. I think those are the two most important things.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kikelamo. I'm gonna just center it to Ujiri or Deji. Is there anything you want to add to that is top of mind for you?
Yes, actually I would. So if I use myself as an example, honestly, I got into front office, as you call it, in the most unusual way. I was not very passionate about it. I will be very honest. I would say I stumbled into it because I was working in a core global agriculture company, in Switzerland, and I wanted to come back home for many reasons. And I was looking out for opportunities, and I just reached out to someone I know that I thought might have, might be able to help me, connect me to somebody in one of these big multinationals. And the person said, why don't you come work with us? And give me the option of, do you want to work consulting or private equity? I had no clue that was the first time I was really, coming face to face with private equity. But then I said, let me give it a trial, and I jumped right into it. Now, the point I'm trying to make there is I took a risk. It was a major career risk I took at that point because I was going into something I was completely unfamiliar with. And I think that's one of the first things I would like to say, that you must be willing to take a risk, especially because it's not something you're familiar with. It's something that you probably will have to learn. So for me, it was a big risk. And then the second thing was when I joined the private equity firm, I was actually put in a position to manage our technical assistance facility, which was, not front office as you would call it. But then one of the operating partners at that point left the organization, and I was told to just deputize for him until they recruit a new operating partner, and that was 3-4 years ago. Here I am now managing, 2 portfolio companies, sitting on the board of those companies. So the second point I would say is you need to stand up and rise up to the occasion when it arises, because opportunities will always show themselves at different points in time. The question is, will you be ready to, take up that opportunity and make it your own? So, like Kike Lomo said, when you push for that, that desire comes and they give you that opportunity, what do you make out of it? Do you treat it like any other thing that just stumbled your way, or do you really take it as your own? You own it completely, and they just say, yes, we found the right person to take this role. So I think those are 2 things I wanted to point out and add to what Kike said.
All right. Just to also add to what Kike and DJ has said, looking at my transition journey, I started my career in an audit firm for about 2 years. So it was more like in an audit industry, as long as you're an auditor, that's a front office for them. So in that instance, it was front office, but I wanted to actually move into the core industry. So I went to an investment management firm as a portfolio manager for about 3 months. In 3 months, I was bored doing portfolio management because I felt I wasn't really doing, I was just about 2 years experience. So I felt the work they were giving me wasn't so much. So I moved back to be a CFO of a boutique investment bank. And then I recall my colleagues were telling me, why would you leave a front office to a back office? Then it wasn't really important to me. The most important for me was I needed more challenges in my career. I needed to do much more than I was doing at that point in time. So I've been in the finance as a CFO, transitioned, United Capital has reformed several times. Even in my finance journey from CFO of a small boutique investment banking firm to a larger group doing investor relations strategy and a number of other finance roles. But for me, one of the things I learned in the course of that has helped me in the transition to be the CEO of an asset management firm, which is one of the subsidiaries of the group, is the fact that, a number of us were just used to doing what we are being told to do. I had understanding of much beyond my role, beyond being a finance person. I could talk about what the guy in investment banking is doing. I could talk about what the transactions they are doing in other businesses, So I was able to move beyond the responsibility that was given. And I think to a large extent, it will get to a point where executive management will begin to notice traits like that. And then because I was in the financial service industry, I didn't want to be seen as an accountant. I remember when I joined the boutique investment banking firm as their CFO, someone asked me, oh, are you the new bean keeper? And I looked at myself, me, bean keeper. Then about 10 years ago in an investment banking firm, the guys in the front office, they always felt they were the superior ones, and then you at the back office, you are more like dumb, you don't. So and the guy looked at me and said, are you the new bean keeper? I said, come on. That was why I chose to go and write the CFA exam. So at least let me understand what are you guys doing that So I started the CFA journey, and in the course of my transition, one of the things I would say in terms of the mindset of in terms of work you do in the back office is completely different from the front office. So let's assume you are a risk manager, a back office role. You are there to manage risk. Once you transition to front office, your job is to take risk, not to manage risk. But if you're not able to transition in terms of your mindset, it might be difficult for you to adjust. So one of the skills I think is mindset. You should be able to shift your mindset as quickly as possible. That's very important.
Okay, Kelama. Sorry. Ojiri, you just basically answered the question I had prepared for you, but I'm going to ask it a different way because I feel like there might be things that you left out. So I'm particular about the house now because I've been following the questions, and I do get the sense that a lot of people on this call are two buckets, right? I see buckets of people currently in a firm looking to in the back office, trying to move into transition into front office. I also see people who are currently on the fringes of finance or the investment management industry who are looking to get in. And I was going to ask, and I'm going to ask you to be like specific. I mean, I've heard in terms of from the three of you, you've mentioned the breadth of experience. Did you also mention when you get the opportunity, you should make the best use of it. You stand up and be counted. So what specific skills? So I do take that CFA is one of them. What skills, what mindset, and I do consider you mentioned that, and what experiences should you be building? If I was looking to transition, should I be building at this time that would signal that I am ready, or someone should take a punt on me or a chance on me that I'm ready for front office?
That's a very interesting question because it's neither here nor there. It's really not. It's not as straightforward as there's something I need to do to prepare me for front office. Because it's easier, like in my industry, investment banking, asset management, it's easier to start to transition at a much lower level, at an analyst level or maybe second level analysis. It's much easier to transition from back office to front office. But once you stayed in back office for a long time, it's much more difficult to transition. Now, it's also much easier, I won't say easier, but maybe beyond the entry level, it's also easier to transition at a much senior level. You know, so because at that level, they're not looking at your technical skills again. They're not looking at your competence in terms of technical experience. They're looking at your leadership capability. Yes, they can say, oh, you've worked in the industry for a number of years, you have this qualification, but the major focus now is on your leadership. So at the entry level and at a much senior level, it's easier to transition. Now you talked about what are the skills and experiences you need. How do you begin to build, and prepare yourself for that? So I would say to a large extent, identify why you want to move and where you want to move to. It's because finance front office roles are diverse. There are a number of roles, front office roles in finance. So identify where do I want to move to? Which front office role do I want to move to? And if you, in my industry, as an example, interest in financial market is it's table stake. It's common. You must have that. So even if you're a back office role, you're doing operations or you're doing finance, if you don't have interest in the financial market, you don't have understanding, you cannot debate it. You cannot talk about it at impromptu or any point in time, have that kind of discussion. It might be difficult to move. So even whether you're moving to investment banking or you're moving to asset management, interest in financial market is very important. Now, depending on the level you are, having skills like financial modeling skills, presentation skills, PowerPoint skills are also important. But like I said earlier, entry level, much senior level, important. But it's also not that easy to transition from back office to front office from one organization to another. It could have been difficult for me to move from a CFO role to a front office role in another organization. Much is possible, but not as easy. But because I work in a group of several companies, I've been here for about 13 years already. So I've been here for a really long time. I've done a number of roles. It's easier for me to be moved from one place to the other, depending on how, she was good here, to be moved around. So if you want to really move beyond what are the skills or experience, you need to join organizations where you have a larger, you have a wider pool of opportunity. If you are in a smaller firm in a back office role, it might be more difficult to move to front office role. So joining an organization where you have more opportunities for front office roles is also very important. And then your experience, number of years of experience is really important, especially in that particular organization. You've built credibility over time in what you're doing in back office, and people can vouch for you and say, okay, this person can handle this role, depending on how you can communicate your value in the back office role to align with what is expected in the front office role. And then Kike talked about networking and relationship building, which is really very important. You know, when you work in a large organization, you should not just be restricted to only the people within your team. It's also good to know what other teams are doing. You know, I was listening to, I had the opportunity to speak to someone in a group a few years ago. She's a HR professional. She has been in HR for a long time. She was also a HR professional in this particular company within one of our group. And then I was amazed. She was talking about the company is doing investment now. It's more of a private equity firm, investment firm. They do investment in a number of companies or industries. And she was talking about it. This is the HR director talking about investment. Oh, they are investing in this transaction. And she was talking with him with so much passion. And I looked at her. Today, she's CEO of Transcorp. Owen, this is a HR person. You know, and not sometimes we restrict ourselves to, oh, because I'm HR, I'm in finance, I'm in risk management, that's what I need to know. No, you are in risk management in a financial service industry, understand everything that investment bank or asset management company is doing, whether it relates to risk management or not. Because tomorrow, when the opportunity comes, you can always, compete for it and say, I have been here, I understand what they're doing here, what they're doing here. And the truth is that everybody wants value. Every CEO or board, they want value. And it's just how you can communicate the value. It's not a function of, oh, she has been in back office. No. And for me, what gave me the opportunity here, beyond my CFA, which I think was a distinguishing factor for me, it was the fact that, okay, in finance, you know, finance in an organization, you have a bird eye view of everything going on. So I could talk about what they're doing in asset management. I could see transactions happening in investment banking. I could see what the guys in trustee are doing, what the securities trader they are doing, and I could talk about it. I do presentation of performance. So I don't talk about performance in terms of debit and credit. I talk about the performance from a business perspective. You know, so when you see that, oh, she's talking about, oh, they made money from here, this is how they made it, you see that, oh, this person has skills, let her go on. So when the opportunity came, somebody said she has a CFA, let her go and use it. That was the word they used. You know, so really, it's not like I said, it's not really black and white. It's how you are able to, within where you are, find that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Udiri. I mean, you said a lot. I feel like you finished the topic. You could as well just go home right now. But when you mentioned she has CFA, I was just wondering in my mind that, wow, I need to go complete my CFA. It does look like this is the right time so that I can get those opportunities. But I was also going to mention to everyone on call that you can ask your questions. So we're monitoring the chat box. So just let us know what questions come to mind. And there's a very interesting question that came up, and I'm going to ask Keloma and Deji to go for this one. Someone asked, what role does ageism play in transitioning? I don't know what ageism means, but my sense is they're trying to tell us that we have this thing where people maybe at 26 can't get into entry-level roles, or some roles have age bars, or how long you've stayed in an industry. So is it a function of age in terms of the people that you've seen that have made this transition? Like I see a raised hand, I'm going to come to you at some point, Sahid. So how does your age, at what times in your career or at your age should you be thinking of transitioning, and how can this be a positive or negative, how can it have a positive or negative impact on your ability to transition? So I'll go first. I think Deji is unmuted, so I'll go with him. Then we'll come back to Kielama.
That's a very interesting question. Difficult to answer, really, but I'll try my best. The reality is, age at the end of the day is a number. The reality also is that it's more difficult at certain ages to get into certain things, but it doesn't mean it's absolutely impossible. So, to the question, what role does age play? I think value should be the way we should think about it. Don't think about it as age. Think about value. What value do you bring that will make somebody want to listen? Honestly, let's be candid with ourselves. There's no CEO or no manager anywhere that is sitting and is looking at you being able to bring incredible value to his organization and then he's asking, how old are you? It doesn't happen anywhere. It's a question of, you bring value for me, you sit at the table, and then we can have a conversation. So, and which is one of the things I was even going to say. If you're you're looking to get into an investment firm, for example, you want to get into private equity or asset management, but you're not in there yet, you're not even in the back office yet, you're outside and you want to get in, I would say that look at what strength do you have, what value do you bring as a person, as you are, and then look at how you can tee that up into the company. Even it might be in a back office role, it might be in something that is on the fringes, it might not be exactly what you want, but you know where you're going to, you know the journey you are building. When I got into Sayal Capital, like I mentioned, I was not in I was not in the front office, portfolio management. I was supposed to be managing the TA, but I know what I knew, and I tried to manage that extremely well. There was a comment that the managing partner made one day. He said that field of technical assistance that he has always been managing, and the fact that he doesn't have to hear about what is happening up in that session anymore, and he knows it's fully under control, makes him happy. Those are the kind of things you want to generate, and the moment you begin to bring that to the table, people will listen to you. So I wouldn't rule out the fact that I'm not assuming that age does not play a role. For example, you hear that when you're at a particular age, it's difficult for you to get into certain jobs. I've seen in the world of private equity, I've seen people become partners at the age of 27, 29, and I've seen people make partner when they were in their 40s or even 50s. But at the end of the day, they all eventually made partner, based on the journey to how they were able to get there. So I think that would be my position. Maybe Kike might be able to add some other perspective on this.
Well, I think, Deji, you've touched on most of it. I don't think anybody would say no to value. And I think a lot of times, and I think I mentioned this when I started talking, a lot of people write themselves off before they've been given an opportunity. And you say, oh, because I'm too old, no one is going to take me. What are they going to think about me? And like I said, always go from the perspective of I have value to add and be able to demonstrate that. Sometimes people find it very difficult to communicate or express what they can add. I wouldn't rule out the fact that certain organizations, once they see your CV or they haven't met with you, they would rule you out because of age. It does happen. And sometimes they might be protecting the dynamics within the teams. And that's why they rule out age and say, oh, maybe you're too old to join the team. But I think Deji talked about it from the perspective of coming in externally. But if you're working in a large group, like Odiri said, sometimes I think the best way around it is also volunteering. So you might be in a back office role and you can strike a deal with head of sales, head of investment banking to say, look, I want to work 2-3 days with your team. I've got the capacity to do so. Let me demonstrate what sort of value I have. And they might start to see what sort of skills you bring to bear. And you might be easily moved across into that team, especially if you're volunteering and you're not asking for anything else additional. The other thing to take into consideration is that you might be asked to take a pay cut because you're moving in from a role that is back office into a front office, or you're moving in from a sector that has nothing to do with where you're moving into. So you might be moving from an agri-tech or a fintech business into an investment bank. You've demonstrated value, but they want to know that you can actually perform the role. And so you might also be willing, you might have to consider taking a pay cut as well. So, I mean, there's no straight answer to say age limits what you can or cannot do. I think it's more about the value and the people that you're speaking to and what they see that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Wow.
Babatunde, if I might just add to what, just something very quickly. Kike said something about volunteering. It's quite interesting. I was reading a book, and it's a book that I would recommend for most people here to read. It's called Dream Big. It's a book about 3G Capital, and one of the three partners or one of the three founders of that organization today, when he entered into the firm, he was basically carrying files. And in his spare time, what he did was he went to ask one of the, guys on the investment desk, let me help you do these 1, 2, 3 things. I mean, who does not want to be helped and still be able to get the shine on it? So the guy said, okay, get it done. So the guy will stay nights and weekends getting this guy to get his job done. Eventually, he was able to get all the skills he needed to get in the front office. So I think it's a very, very important point that was made.
Wow, thank you. Those are great responses. Thank you so much. And I also think that those responses more or less spoke to other questions that people have. So thank you for that. I can see two people with their raised hands. I see Said Falola and I can see Juwon below. I'm going to call both of you at some point. But in the chat box, I can also see that there's an announcement from ARM Group. So they have a link in there. So you can add yourself to a data bank. So they can contact you for available roles, both for today or into the future. So for people who have not been able to go into the chat, the breakout rooms, and I'm not saying you should go into the breakout rooms now. There's a link there that you can maybe save for purposes for you to have your name in there. So Said Falola, do you want to like go for it and ask your questions right now? Hi, Said. Can you ask your question? Okay, great.
Oh, Babatunde.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, happy to join you guys today. See, it's been a very exciting conversation. So I was just wondering, and I was going to also touch about some big shifts or trends that I noticed. So, and this includes technology and sustainability. So I was wondering if some of these themes would have any impact on the financial market environment and potentially how that can affect how people try to develop themselves such that they are available for the jobs of the future. So I was just wondering if that's like a concern around in Nigeria for now and the way we see it.
So Said, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you again. Themes around what? You said sustainability and technology?
Sustainability and technology, actually.
Oh, great. When you say sustainability,
yeah, but as it concerns finance, really.
Oh, great. Okay, great.
So perhaps maybe if I can talk a bit more about that. So for instance, I know there's an increasing like dovetail between finance and data analytics. I was just wondering if some of these teams are going to be important in the future. Yeah.
Great. Excellent question, Sahid. So who wants to go for that? I know we had the previous session, interestingly, had spoken a lot about the jobs of the future and how they can have an impact on finance roles. But I can already see, yeah. So please, if you can just go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so for jobs of the future, I think what side is, if I understand your question, it speaks largely to the skill set. So the focus is now on skills. So even if you are in front office or in back office, the most important thing is do you have the skill set? So you talked about data analytics. So what you will begin to see is that if I want to hire a portfolio manager, whether for fixed income or for equities or whichever asset class I'm looking at, I'll also be looking at for somebody who has maybe at least some experience or some training or some knowledge of data analytics, or technology. So, or my skill sets like this will begin to come up. So even when you are recruiting somebody for sales, recruiting somebody for even risk management or finance roles, what you'll be looking at will be now skill set relating to technology, relating to data analytics, relating to artificial intelligence, something in that direction. So it might not necessarily change the direction of front office or back office, but what it will now mean, it will expand the skill set that is required either in the back office roles or in front office roles. That's my understanding.
Yeah, and if I will add, I think if I add to it from the perspective of sustainability, so more increasingly, especially given the nature of capital that is coming into the finance sector now, a lot of people are very particular about how their money or how their finance is being used. So if you think about it from the perspective of environmental integrity, you think about it from the perspective of social fairness. So it's an increasing area where, especially if they are working with DFIs and international investors, they want to know how you are preserving the integrity of the environment. Are you preserving biodiversity? Are you ensuring that forest areas are how they should? You're not burning and felling trees. And then from a social perspective, issues of diversity, issues of youth employment, making sure that people are not unfairly treated. So it's an interesting skill set area. So in Sayal Capital, we have an ESG manager whose sole responsibility is to ensure that all our investments are ESG compliant, and I see this across a lot of finance organizations as well. So I would say that it could be another way. If it's a skill area you could build, it could be another way that you could be able to get into some of the finance sector. But definitely, it's an increasing focus area for a lot of investors.
So we are way over time. I know Eniola raised their hands. So if you still have that question, do you want to ask? I noticed that most of the questions in the chat box have been answered in a certain way. It doesn't look like your question has been answered. If it hasn't, so Eniola, can I? It doesn't look like we have Eniola anymore. Okay? So you can ask your question, then we'll wrap up with that. Then I'll just come in and we'll do like a wrap up session. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for this session. My question goes thus, because I'm an undergraduate at the University of Lagos, and then there are little or no opportunities put out there for us. And actually, the undergraduate community is a very strong one. These skills that employers are looking for, we actually have them. We've come together in groups to learn the skills of the future, data analytics, web development, writing, public speaking, communication. We have them in work, but it's so sad that there are no opportunities thrown at us. The bars are raised high, and then we see BSc, we see this. So what I'm trying to ask is, what about us? Because we are here. All you need, we are just here looking at and wanting an opportunity.
Eniola, I love your question. So it does look like, and interestingly, the three panelists are all bosses. So I expect them to be reaching out to you privately. But anyways, who is going to be like answering the question?
Okay, I can give it a go. Eniola, thanks for your question. I know a lot of organizations do what we call career fairs. So I don't know how much you're keyed into what's going on, but I know, for example, Leadway does do career fairs quite regularly, I think at least twice a year. And a number of other organizations do that. Other ways of finding out what's also going on is, I mentioned networking. There are lots of social events that happen that are targeted towards graduates. So you might just want to keep your eye on and pay attention to what is going on. So for example, now you have the CFA Career Fair, which you're on. You would see, unfortunately, this is not happening physically, but it's virtually. Another way of going about it, I have seen people who are really, really active about looking for their opportunities, and they go to societies like the CFA Society, ACCA Society, and find out what is going on in respect to recruitment. You could also get from activity and expressing interest. I mean, one of the things that I always used to say to people is that don't wait for an opportunity to be advertised. You can also openly reach out to people and also put forward an interest or find out if there are graduate schemes, graduate programs that you can sign up to and apply to. And I think that's one way of going about it.
Okay.
I mean, Eniola, you're here. It's a good start.
Great, perfect. So Eniola, you're here. You know Deji, you know Diri now, and you know Kikeloma. So I expect you to send them a cold email, reminding them that, yeah, I asked you that question the other time. So do you have any role for me? So I can promise you, and just add my name. They are gonna like be happy to take that forward. So thank you very much, the panelists. Thank you so much for the honest and candid responses. Thank you for the knowledge that you shared with us and the wisdom. So we're really grateful. In terms of a summary, we've had the whole conversation around having an understanding of the value that you bring. If you're already in an industry, you're already in back office, you have a lot of value that you can offer. So be very confident in that value. Network, make sure you improve your own skills. You can also think of the CFA exam as a way to differentiate yourself. And I do hope that all the transitions that you're looking for will come your way. So thank you very much. So I'm going to hand it back to David to take it back up from here.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Babatunde. Are you still there? That was just wonderful. I was just smiling throughout that session because just remembering my career myself and how I've progressed. It's a wonderful thing. Thanks a lot, Babatunde, and thanks a lot, Kike. Thanks, Odiri. Thanks, Deji. That was just really, really wonderful. And thanks, Eniola, for that question at the end. That was. And I can tell you something, Eniola, that you have that everybody should kind of be inspired by you is confidence. confidence is extremely important. And you showed confidence in the way you talked and everything. Yes, you've also kind of joined all these communities where you learn all these data analytics skills. I think everybody in this panel would agree with me that in our days when we were writing projects, we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything. I mean, I can remember taking the Economist magazine, buying like about 200 old Economist magazines, wanting to write a project on securitization or some obscure subject like that 20 years ago. So today, I mean, instantly you have that data. So instantly you can learn all these things you need to learn. So I encourage everyone to just go up their skills and then volunteer. Volunteering is extremely important. So when you say, okay, how can I volunteer to be a portfolio manager? You can, what is a portfolio? Portfolio, you have various shares, you have stocks, you have bonds. There are some tiny organizations that will need you to do some portfolio management for them. They don't know it's portfolio management. You could start there, start small. So thanks everybody. And we're always coming to a wrap for the day, but I'll just quickly share my slides with you and tell you what you have coming. There's quite a number of sessions that you're missing. There's some corporates that have a lot of goodies for you. I mean, you need to jump by the breakout rooms, just to jump by the breakout rooms and then see what they have for you. And I'll give you a little secret. I think there are more than 10 companies there, and some people are piling into other companies. There's some companies that don't have as many people in those rooms. So that means they're going to have your full attention. So please jump in there and explore all the companies that are there and wanting to talk to you about jobs. And also on the screen, I hope you can see it, you have to visit the job board for a list of available openings. We have cfasocietyng.org/jobs. So those are available openings, and please visit the CFA Society NG website for those. And tomorrow, we're going to have a lucky draw tomorrow. Two people, I think two people are going to win 20,000 naira, at least some money. So people are going, probably there's going to be more stuff dropped into the draw. So make sure you enter for that. I think when you come in early tomorrow, you'll be able to see how to enter for that draw. And of course, networking is all there. All the companies are there. Just go on and click on more, and then you'd see breakout rooms, join breakout rooms. And then, as I said, you have various rooms there. I can see many people in ARM. I can see many people in Coronation Merchant Bank. I can see Ernst & Young Global Limited has quite a lot of people. FSDH Asset Management Limited, more people there. Greenwich Merchant Bank has more people there. Leadway Assurance Company has people. Meristem Securities Limited. We has some people there as well. Sterling, everyone has people in the room. Sterling Bank PLC. So jump right in. United Capital PLC as well. So jump right into the rooms. Go have a chat. Ask questions. And this is like I mean, it's customer service directly there. So please jump in and ask questions. Tomorrow, we're back again tomorrow. So today really is a wrap. And if you have any questions, still type them into the chat. We'll still read them and see if we can pass them on for tomorrow's sessions. But we are done for today. But please don't leave. Jump into the chats, jump into the rooms, into the corporate rooms, and ask your questions. And we're going to see you again same time tomorrow. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. And tomorrow we have a lot to cover tomorrow. We have, of course, the theme, remember, managing your career in uncertain times. And I'll quickly give you a sneak peek of what's going to happen tomorrow. So we're going to have a session, a panel session, employer session, career opportunities in asset management, private equity, investment banking, consulting, and financial markets. And I'll be moderating that session with Dikpo Adebajo, Head OD and Talent Acquisition, Sterling Bank. You have Kayode Adeshoye, Finance Manager, Leadway Assurance. And we also have Ebuwa Babajide, Head Human Capital Management and Administration of Greenwich Merchant Bank. So that's one of the sessions. We also have another session which is going to talk about LinkedIn workshop. It's going to, how can you optimize your LinkedIn profile to attract employers? Because LinkedIn is the social media platform for work. So Dr. Glory Edozian is going to talk about that. She's lead coach and consultant inspired by Glory Academy founder, 9 to 5 chick, 9 to 5 chick. Okay. And I really want to watch that session and see how I can enhance my LinkedIn profile. It's not just for you guys, for everybody. So another session, again, that's at 4:15. We have a career services initiative unveiling opportunity to better manage your career by Yemi Ajagun, CFA, managing partner, Access Capital Expedition Limited, and there will be a session on Career Service Initiative, opportunities to better manage your career. So then we'll do basically another job board, invite you to go and visit the job board, and then we wrap up with the draw. So that's for tomorrow. So please jump back in tomorrow at the same time, and we'll see you tomorrow. So it's a wrap for today, and I'll give a recap for today as well tomorrow when we do come. Thank you everybody for joining us. This has been the 2020 CFA Society Nigeria Virtual Career Fair, and we look forward to seeing you on day 2 tomorrow. Thank you everybody, and thanks to all our speakers.